G'day mate, how you going? If you look at pretty much any photo from the early 20th century, there's a high chance that it will be black and white, and if it has color, it's most likely colorized after the photo was taken. Reasons for this are mostly because we were still trying to figure out color photography. People just could not manage how to make color photography look good, be convenient, and look good for literal decades. But there are a bunch of lads out there who pioneered color photography ever since the mid-19th century. And one of those people, who in my opinion was one of the best at it, was the sophisticated looking Russian fellow named Sergey Prokudin-Gorsky. Even after learning exactly how his photos were made and seeing the little artifacts that give it away, they still fascinate me so much, and I feel like I'm actually there in the space where he took them. They feel that real, which is why today I'll talk about the history of Sergey's photography, some more stuff about early color photography in general, and the effect that color photos have on us compared to the effects of black and white. To give a pretty literal Wikipedia summary, Sergey Mikhailovich Prokudin-Gorsky was born on the 30th of August 1863 in the Russian Empire. In 1890, he married Anna Lavrova, who was the daughter of Alexander Lavrov, an active member of the IRTS, where Sergey would later work in the photography section. In 1901, he would study what Wikipedia calls three-color photography with Professor Adolf Meath, and later in 1905, Sergey started documenting the Russian Empire with these innovative techniques, which he did for quite a while, at least longer than the time period in between ScoMo saying that he was ambitious for the PM and then stealing that spot days later.
Yeah, good on you. Thanks, ScoMo.
In my opinion, Sergey's photos from this time period have gone down as some of the most amazing work in the history of photography. And it was pretty damn simple when you look at how the photos were actually made. So let's look at how the photos were actually made. But first, some boring shit about the history of color photography and this smart Scottish bloke named James Clerk Maxwell demonstrated in 1861 the very first color photograph taken by Thomas Sutton, which was a photo of a ribbon. If you couldn't tell. It took me a while to notice that it was a ribbon as well. Even with people telling me it was a ribbon, I thought they were bullshitting me. This photo was made from the idea that if you took 3 black and white photos of the same subject through 3 different color filters, red, green, and blue, and those images were projected through the same filters on separate projectors, they would produce a color image. Why red, green, and blue filters specifically? Because that's how our eyes work. You stupid fuck. Much better examples from the 19th century show that this idea, dubbed three-color photography, worked like a champ, some would say. They produced an actually good, stable color image, which was enough for our old mate Sergey to go and document the Russian Empire for a decade. He used these techniques to photograph thousands of subjects from 1905 to 1915. Everything from buildings to prisoners to peasants to artists to people of royalty, such as this riverman, or the last emir of Bukhara. More on this later. The way these photos were taken was with a special color camera developed by the aforementioned Adolf Meath and Wilhelm Bernpohl. It would use the 9cm by 23cm plates that Sergey used, where it would have some sort of sliding mechanism to slide the plates and filters so they wouldn't have to be replaced manually, allowing for the subjects to not have to stay in the same place for longer, then in turn allowing for lesser fringing or ghosting. Also, fun fact, Sergey in 1922 filed a patent for a color camera system, this time using flexible film instead of sturdy glass plates, since the transition from plates to film had mostly completed at that point. He also allegedly used a camera that he built and invented for his documentation of the Russian Empire, but some say this is false and silly since it was pretty much identical to the Meath Bernpohl camera. I tend to agree with the latter. No matter the case, you can't deny that these photos are stunning for the time they were taken, and this is probably the best they've ever looked, since back in the day, they didn't have the convenience of showing these in the same way we can nowadays with computers. An example of showing these photos before computers is the 1980 coffee table book, Photographs for the Tsar for short, or Photographs for the Tsar, the pioneering color photography of Sergey Prokudin-Gorsky, commissioned by Tsar Nicholas II for long. My favorite murderer. The photos had been bought by the Library of Congress at this point, but they didn't have the capabilities to digitize them yet. So they used yellow, cyan, and magenta halftones to print the photos onto the paper, which you can see the artifacts of on the photos themselves. Similar to the red, green, and blue artifacts on the digitized photos, only now they're the complementary colors, since that's how printing works. The book also contains a lot of information about Sergey himself, his photography, and the last days of the Russian Empire, all of which I can barely scratch on the surface right now in this video. So if you want to read it for yourself, steal it from your local library. But you can see that some of the photos in this book compared to the digitized versions look a bit different. The main distinction is that the book versions are darker and have higher contrast. Regardless, they look really good. So good that I think my undies need changing. I think another reason why they look so good is because they kind of look like paintings in a way. The camera is quite far away and zoomed in, invoking a feeling that you're some sort of outsider peeping in. The subject is usually always in the near center of the frame too. Not the most important thing, but just a little fun thing to add here. You may think I'm exaggerating my excitement here, but I'm dead serious when I say that when I saw these photos for the first time, I felt like I was actually there in the photo itself. And this brings me on to my next point. Why do color photos have such a different impact on us compared to black and white? We're going to be talking movies now, but we're going to come back around to photography, I swear. The 2019 movie The Lighthouse, starring Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, is a drug trip of a movie that is also in black and white. Funnily enough, I'm high right now. Oh no, it's gonna fuck. Oh man. It definitely fits not only the time period that the film is set, but also the sort of weird dreamlike feel you have throughout, making you question if any of this actually happened in the film's universe. Then in turn making you question if anything's actually happened in this universe. I mean, have you ever thought we could be living in a simulation? Like in The Matrix, right? Point being, this is a movie that can only really work in black and white. If you look at behind the scenes videos and photos, Robbie Patty looks like he's a 19th century Mario or some shit, which is hilarious, but being able to see color in a film like this just doesn't work. It's not fitting. Black and white can also allow for more control of lighting and clothes, so it doesn't matter what your clothes are because they'll just be compressed into monochrome anyway. Hence 19th century Mario. This was especially the case in the days before panchromatic black and white film was a thing, since film used to be very sensitive to wavelengths of light that are more blue, but not red or green wavelengths. So you could wear a green dress, and to the film it may as well be yellow. And this brings me back to Sergey's photo of the last emir of Bukhara. See? I told you we would come back to this. You didn't believe me, did you? You distrusting cunt! In the year 2000, the Library of Congress digitized, polished, and published nearly, funnily enough, 2,000 of Sergey's photos from around 1905 to 1915. One of these photos, the photo of the Emir of Bukhara, also got published alongside the original black and white negatives, detailing the 3 photos taken, with the filters in the unusual order of blue, green, and red. You can see the tone of his clothes change with each photo taken. It starts off almost white in the blue filter, a sort of grey in the green filter, and an almost black color in the red filter. Since his dress is blue, this makes sense since certain wavelengths passing through the filters are blocked out in different intensities. So whilst equipped with a red filter, blue wavelengths get blocked out from passing through since they're on the opposite side of the spectrum, and the film doesn't get hit with blue light, so the blue area is dark. Isn't science fun? So taking photos of buildings and people in black and white back in the day did for sure capture some aspects of the cultures and societies, but you can't tell if people are wearing something super colorful and cool or if they're just wearing monochrome clothes. Like a basic bitch. This is why color photography is so useful for documenting an entire society. But because color photographs were also so rare back then, it's a technical marvel at the same time. I'm not saying that color photography is needed for documentaries. There are many perfect black and white photos out there documenting different parts of history. What was that take? Jesus. But for preserving different parts of history, color photography is the little extra bit that makes it real. Especially when every other photo you've seen from a certain time period is black and white. When you see a color photo from that time, it feels super real, super eye-opening, and super fucking weird. And I mean, black and white colorization is cool, sure, but with many colorized photos, I can sort of tell that it's been fucked with. They don't look right. I don't feel the same way with natty color photographs. The fact that these photos were meant to be viewed in color and not in black and white gives it some uniqueness, so the color looks natural, intentional, cool, and nice, instead of looking kinda unintentional, stupid, stinky, and smelly farts. In a world where I can just whip out a black slab full of shit and just take a perfectly good photo on a whim and not even think about it, Sergey's photos are amazing, especially for the time period they were taken. Are his techniques needed in the modern day? Fuck no. Are his techniques very cool and interesting? To me, fuck yeah! Some people in more recent years have taken photos using through color photography as a sort of novelty thing to try to replicate Sergey's style. And one person that comes to mind is someone by the name of Andrew Kovalev, who tried replicating Sergey's style in the late 2010s and did a great fucking job at it in my opinion. Hell, even you can do it. If you have black and white film laying around or your digital camera has a black and white mode, go ahead and do this. This is a heaps good idea. But even 50 years ago, these techniques were obsolete. Color films had been a thing for decades by that point already. This is purely just a subject of interest for big photography heads, or more likely, big autistic photography heads. Ever since I saw Sergey's photos for the first time, I've always wanted to look more into it and make a video about it. And now I have. Thank you so much for listening to my stupid ramblings about something that is, nowadays, completely obsolete and not important whatsoever to the regular old Joe. This is just something I wanted to share with people, maybe educate a little bit about some history, and just have a good old waffle. If you want to learn more, there are many books out there about Sergey and his photography, all of which I'll link in the description. I'll also link the collection of his photos on the Library of Congress website. Even just his Wikipedia page is a good read. There's a lot of stuff there I didn't mention. God, I'm such a shit researcher. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this as interesting as I did. If you didn't, then you're on the wrong YouTube channel. Good night, mate, and I hope your day was good. I don't know why I'm clapping. There's nothing to sync to.